This podcast was created on Messy. Create your own show today at messy.fm.
Hello. This is D. Miller back again. I don't know why it's taking me so long. I don't have any excuses. Not like there's not stuff in the news all the time. There always is something to talk about. But I guess it's just something that takes my interest and makes me want to hop online and talk about it. Today, what it is, well, the first thing that I want to talk about is the apparent suicide of Jeffrey Epstein while he was detained in a New York City detention center, a correctional facility. I'm not all that familiar. I'm from New York, but I'm really not familiar with the New York City Correctional Department, other than I have a few relatives that work there. It's odd to me that he was able to commit suicide because 2 weeks ago, supposedly, he also tried to commit suicide. So I would think that after that, you would be on suicide watch. You'd be in a special part of the jail. And my understanding is that is how it works, that you'll be in a part of the jail where you don't have access to anything that you would be able to commit suicide with. Like you don't get any bed sheets, you don't get any towels, the uniform or whatever that they are given when they're on suicide watch is something that cannot be torn, can't be destroyed in any type of way. They're not giving any type of pens. They're only allowed paper, like court papers and a Bible or something like that, and with absolutely no staples, no paper clips, nothing like that. Even when they're served food, it's not served on a tray. They're not giving any utensils. Their food is given to them in a paper bag, and it's stuff that they have to eat with their hands. And even at that, they're supposed to be watched by a correctional officer. So it's odd to me that he would have been able to commit suicide, under those circumstances. But now, of course, the narrative is changing. We're saying that he was not suicidal, he was not on suicide watch, which is odd if he had previously, not that long ago, tried to commit suicide. So, that's odd. And also what's odd to me personally is that, and it was yesterday or maybe the day before, there was a picture that was circulating of his body supposedly being taken away from the jail and to the hospital on a gurney, and his whole upper body was exposed. Like you could see his face, the profile of his face and everything, which I thought was odd, because if he were deceased when they found him in the jail, wouldn't they have covered him up with a sheet or a blanket or something? And if I'm not mistaken, there should have been some type of medical professional there, that a doctor that would have been able to pronounce him as deceased. So then why would his body need to go to the hospital? He could have gone directly to the coroner's office. Now, it's possible there was no doctor there at that point that was qualified to, do the declaration of death. So that's why he had to go to the hospital. It still doesn't explain why his body was so exposed, other than to let him be visible to the general public, so that those pictures could circulate, so that people could be like, oh, there he is on a stretcher. Doesn't mean he's dead. In my opinion, it just means he or some man with gray hair is on a stretcher. I don't know. There's a lot of speculation that he did not kill himself, but that he was actually murdered. There's that, scandal watching crowd that's, it's a totally plausible, scenario, is that he had a lot of information, derogatory information, as far as contacts with young girls of his circle. He traveled in a circle of high rollers. He was friends with at least two presidents that we know about, Bill Clinton and the Cheeto that's in the White House now. And Bill Clinton has been recorded to have been on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane many, many, many times. So then there's Alan Dershowitz. There are a lot of powerful and elite names that are connected with Jeffrey Epstein. There's Stephen Hawkins even. They're saying that, I don't know if he actually, I think he went to the island. I know he's been on the plane. So there's just a lot of names that have a lot to lose if Jeffrey Epstein decided to talk about their proclivities as they pertain to these underage women that supposedly Jeffrey Epstein supplied them with. So it does make his death look a little suspicious. That's all I'm saying. Whether he was murdered, whether he decided that he would kill himself, whether he's not actually dead and he's been, shipped somewhere to another country. I guess we will never really, really know. But the curiosity factor now is, does the case against him, because there were, from my understanding, quite a few young women coming out and willing to testify that this man has done them some type of harm, that he, has coerced them into sexual relationships while they were underage, that he has procured them and basically sold them to other powerful men. So does this case die? Do these cases die with the supposed suicide of Jeffrey Epstein, or does the FBI, the state, or whomever is going forward with the charges, do they have enough information? And what do you pursue? How do you pursue a case against someone that passed away? There was the football player, I can't think of, Hernandez, that was in jail, had been sentenced, and after he killed himself, some charges that were pending against him or something were dropped. So he, because he cannot, in that particular state, I think that was Boston, I'm not sure, but it was that particular state, those cases that could not be, pursued after his death. So does that pertain to New York City, to the cases that are pending against Jeffrey Epstein? I think his lawyer came out and said that, the victims will be pursuing like civil cases against his estate. So they will probably be monetarily, gifted. They will probably be given some money, but that doesn't cover the fact that they'll never be able to seek justice in the court, that they'll never be able to go and sit in a courtroom, look him and see him be prosecuted for the wrongs that he's done. So I don't know. The curious case of Jeffrey Epstein persists, and we just have to, I guess, just kind of see how that shakes out in the end, and that'll be interesting to watch. Does the whole thing die down and everything continues as is, and these old perverted men continue to take advantage of these young girls, just with Jeffrey Epstein being out of the picture? Who knows? Because what they're saying he did is stuff that rich men have been doing and do for generations. So I don't think his death is going to necessarily be the end of it. It's just the end of the chatter for now. I will say this: he's absolutely and totally knocked all discussions of R. Kelly, out of the box. And I guess the difference is that R. Kelly, the young women that he was victimizing were young black women. And also, there has not, as of yet, been any talk of him, selling them or procuring them for other men in the business, in the music industry or anywhere else. Not to say that makes him a better person than Jeffrey Epstein. It certainly does not. But I was just pointing out the difference in their cases is that not only did Jeffrey Epstein use and abuse these young girls for his own purposes, but he also went on to provide them as entertainment and fun for other powerful men. So I guess that's the difference. And, some of the narratives that I've heard is like he would offer them money and offer them opportunities to better their circumstances if they would do this with this one and that one. And, so does this story die with Jeffrey Epstein? I would imagine that it pretty much does. I mean, I think the story now, as far as he's concerned, is, like the whodunit. Is he, how did he manage to commit suicide under these circumstances? And that chatter just kind of distracts from the fact that, okay, there was a whole case out here. This man supposedly had like a black book of information about other powerful men and their interactions with these very young girls. So It'll just be interesting to see what happens with that. All right, so the next thing I'm going to talk about for a few minutes is the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Okay, I'm going to preface this to say I am not necessarily a huge Tarantino fan. I have seen in their entirety, I think this is the third Tarantino movie. I've seen Jackie Brown, which I absolutely love that movie. I think it's great. It absolutely, how could you go wrong with Pam Grier, Samuel L. Jackson, and Bobby De Niro? It's would be kind of hard to mess that up. But I thought that was great. And I've seen Django Unchained, which I also thought was great. I know there was a lot of, chatter about the use of the N-word, but what I saw, and maybe I just have a different perspective than a lot of people, what I saw when I saw Django Unchained was a love story. I saw the story of a slave who loved his wife enough to go back and fight and get her, to track her down and to get her from a sadistic slave owner. So maybe I just had a different perspective on it, whatever. But now we're into Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is all the thing that the three movies that I have seen of Tarantino's have in common is that they were extremely long. It did not bother me that Jackie Brown was long because I did not see that in a movie theater. I saw that in the comfort of my own home. And if I'm not mistaken, it's been some time since I've seen it. I think I had it, it was on DVD. So at that point, I don't even know if they do that anymore, but at that point, the DVDs could come with extras from the movies, scenes that were cut, chatter, talks and stuff with the cast, some cast members and the director. So I had that, and I just, I would play that at least once a month. I don't have the DVD anymore because since then I've moved a couple times. I had a fire, a flood, all kind of stuff. So I don't have that anymore, but that is my best recollection of that. I did see Django Unchained in the movies. It was long. I didn't have a problem sitting through it. Now, I will say, as much as I enjoyed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it was really long. And I was in one of those really comfortable theaters where, the seats recline and you got your cup holders and all that. And visually, I just thought it was stunning. Cinematically, it was very intriguing to me because I don't know if it's because you have to, have been coming of age, growing up in at a certain era to appreciate some of the things that you saw in the movie. Because there was a scene where somebody goes into a kitchen cabinet and there's a container of Tang. You absolutely have to be of a certain era to even appreciate what Tang was. I don't even know the last time I've seen the word Tang. But it's stuff like that that was just so visually wow. Oh my God. I remember, it's just very nostalgic and it just brings back a lot of memories, the stuff that's in this movie. I'm from New York. So just the basic nostalgic things really had me up in my feelings. I can just imagine if you were actually from LA, the way that this is shot and the things that I guess are, landmark places in LA, how it feels to be someone from LA of a certain era watching this has to be wow, because he actually took you back to 1969. It's he really, the last time I felt that invested in going back in a time period was Spike Lee's Crooklyn, when it takes you back to the Soul Train era and all that. That's what this does, is to actually takes you back. So that part, cinematically, it was great. The length of it, at some point, I did have a little bit of an issue with, because there's a scene, there's a movie within a movie, because, Leonardo DiCaprio is this actor. He's an actor. Leo is the actor, playing an actor in a movie within the movie. And the scene was long and kind of tedious, and I'm sitting there and I'm okay, I'm at the movies watching an actor play an actor in a movie in this really long scene. What's the point? And so I started to kind of drift a little bit and almost took my phone out and got online. But then, it takes a shift where